This game was riddled with errors, particularly from Chelsea, as Manchester City defeated them 3-1 at the Etihad Stadium. Let's get one thing straight. Manchester City weren't exceptional, but Chelsea were simply that poor, giving City far too much respect. This raises questions about Chelsea's mentality. Let's take a closer look at how both managers set up their teams. Manchester City lined up in a 4-3-3 formation, featuring two debutants, Omar Marmoush, who joined from Eintracht Frankfurt, and Abdulkadir Kusanov, who arrived from Lens. Meanwhile, Chelsea set up in a 4-2-3-1, with Enzo Fernandez returning to his position after missing the game against Wolves. Let's take a closer look at how both teams built up their play. When Manchester City gained possession, their two center-backs, Abdulkadir Kusanov and Manuel Akanji, split wide to form a back three alongside goalkeeper Ederson. This adjustment allowed City to build from the back with greater width and stability, ensuring that Chelsea's press was stretched horizontally. Meanwhile, Josko Gvardiol pushed high into the attacking phase, operating almost as an inverted fullback or auxiliary winger, while Omar Marmoush tucked into the left half space to provide vertical passing options. On the opposite side, Matheus Nunes performed a similar role, advancing into the attacking line and maintaining width to stretch Chelsea's defensive block. Simultaneously, Phil Foden moved into the right half space to act as a creative link between the midfield and attack. These movements resulted in Manchester City forming a de facto 3-2-4-1 shape in possession, with the double pivot in midfield ensuring central stability and recycling possession when needed. The advanced positioning of City's fullbacks, Gvardiol and Nunes, forced Chelsea's defensive line into uncomfortable positions. By pushing so wide and so high, City created numerical overloads on both flanks, isolating Chelsea's wingbacks and forcing their defensive line to constantly shift laterally. This left Chelsea vulnerable to diagonal switches and cutbacks, particularly when City transitioned quickly from one flank to the other. In response, Chelsea attempted to adapt defensively by assigning Noni Madueke to track Gvardiol's forward runs and limit his influence in wide areas. However, this plan was largely ineffective. Gvardiol consistently found pockets of space between Reece James and Madueke, exploiting Chelsea's defensive gaps. His off-the-ball movement, often in the half spaces or overlapping wide zones, created confusion in Chelsea's defensive shape. This movement culminated in Gvardiol scoring the equalizer, as he drifted unmarked into the penalty area, capitalizing on a lapse in defensive organization. Manchester City's positional play also allowed their wingers and attacking midfielders to thrive in advanced areas. Marmoush, operating between the lines, frequently dropped into the left half space to receive the ball on the half turn, enabling quick progression into the final third. On the right, Foden's intelligent positioning in the half space created passing triangles with Nunes and Kovacic, ensuring City maintained fluidity and numerical superiority in central areas. Pep Guardiola's tactical blueprint ensured that Chelsea's defensive block was consistently pulled apart, forcing their backline to deal with constant rotations and overloads in wide areas. The combination of City's asymmetrical fullback positioning, half-space occupation, and numerical overloads left Chelsea's defensive structure exposed. This strategic superiority was evident in the way City transitioned seamlessly between phases of play, using their positional structure to dominate possession and manipulate space. When Chelsea are in possession, they typically aim to build from the back and often invert one of their fullbacks, with Cucurella frequently taking up this role. This tactical approach allows them to maintain a compact structure in the midfield and transition smoothly into attacking phases. However, in this match, Chelsea appeared to lack confidence on the ball and relied heavily on long balls to progress play. Instead of their usual short passing sequences, they attempted to bypass Manchester City's press by launching direct passes into the opposition's half. To adapt to this uncharacteristic strategy, Chelsea made notable positional adjustments. Cucurella was pushed higher into the attacking line, primarily to challenge for second balls. Meanwhile, Reece James moved into a central midfield role, forming a double pivot with Caicedo. This adjustment allowed Enzo Fernandez to push further forward into advanced positions, providing an extra option in the attacking line. When goalkeeper Robert Sanchez had possession, his primary targets were wide players like Sancho or Madueke, depending on their positioning. Occasionally, he aimed for Cucurella, who was positioned either in wide areas or further up the field. Sanchez also looked for Nicolas Jackson, who occupied central spaces, or sought to play diagonal passes to runners in the half spaces. However, this high-risk approach frequently backfired. Sanchez made several mistakes in distribution, often misplacing passes and conceding possession to Manchester City. These errors left Chelsea vulnerable to rapid counterattacks, which City exploited with precision and speed. On the occasions when Chelsea attempted to build from the back, their structure shifted dynamically. Reece James moved into midfield to provide an additional passing option, while Cucurella moved into a wide position to stretch the opposition's defensive line. Centre-backs Levi Colwill and Trevoh Chalobah split wide to create space, and Sanchez dropped deeper into the defensive line to form a temporary back four. This setup created a 4-2-4-1 formation in possession, aimed at controlling the midfield while keeping options available for progressing the ball. However, Manchester City's pressing strategy countered this effectively. They employed tight man marking on Chelsea's key players, limiting their time and space on the ball. This relentless pressure often forced Chelsea into hurried decisions, leading to turnovers and leaving them exposed to counterattacks. Throughout the first half, Chelsea's reliance on long balls yielded limited success. Their attempts to bypass City's press were largely ineffective, as they struggled to retain possession in advanced areas. The only goal Chelsea managed to score came from a defensive error by Manchester City's Kusanov, rather than through any tactical ingenuity or cohesive play on Chelsea's part. Manchester City's attacking strategy revolves around breaking Chelsea's high press, and they frequently leverage Haaland's height and physicality to gain an advantage. A key tactic involves launching long balls toward Haaland, who either lays the ball off to a second runner or makes a run himself to create goal-scoring opportunities. This direct approach has proven highly effective, with most of Manchester City's goals in this match originating from these long passes. While Chelsea often managed to hold their defensive line and catch Manchester City offside, there were crucial moments when Haaland's height, strength, and power outclassed Chelsea's defenders. His ability to hold off challenges and dominate aerial duels is an integral part of City's strategy. Furthermore, Foden's intelligent and well-timed runs added another layer of complexity to Chelsea's defense. His awareness and movement in the final third resulted in him scoring the last goal, demonstrating the combination of tactical execution and individual brilliance that defines Manchester City's attacking play. On the other hand, Chelsea relied heavily on counterattacks as their primary offensive strategy. They sought to exploit Manchester City's high defensive line by quickly transitioning through Palmer, who often drove the ball forward in promising counterattacking situations. However, despite creating several opportunities, this plan was largely ineffective due to poor execution in the final third. Jackson, tasked with finishing these chances, squandered many of them, preventing Chelsea from capitalizing on their opportunities. This inefficiency in front of goal exposed a significant weakness in Chelsea's attack, highlighting the need for a more reliable striker to convert chances into goals. Without a clinical finisher, Chelsea struggled to make their counterattacks count, which ultimately hindered their ability to pose a serious threat to Manchester City. The game itself was far from a balanced contest. From the outset, Chelsea appeared to lack confidence, which was evident in their body language and decision-making on the pitch. This mental disadvantage seemed to affect their performance even before the match began. Manchester City, in contrast, exuded confidence and executed their game plan with precision, leaving Chelsea unable to respond effectively. The psychological edge, combined with superior tactical execution, made the result almost inevitable. Chelsea's inability to rise to the occasion underscores their current struggles, particularly in high-pressure games against top-tier opponents. Overall, Manchester City demonstrated why they are one of the most dominant teams in football, combining tactical acumen with individual brilliance. Meanwhile, Chelsea's performance highlighted areas for improvement, both tactically and mentally, as they aim to compete with the best teams in the league.